Welcome back to the Call on Our Shot podcast. We are live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time on YouTube, and you can download the podcast wherever you get you podcasts. I'm Austin, joined by Logan and Sam, the usual trio, back and ready to go. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new so you don't miss out on anything. We got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about our Week 9 takeaways in the NFL. We've got some playoff teams that we think might be able to make a run. Our upset picks, of course. But, of course, we're just going to start off with just talking some football. Sam, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. It was an interesting week. Not a lot went according to plan. My parlays were definitely busted. But, other than that, second half of the season, there's a lot to take from that last week and rolling into the crunch time in fantasy.
Yeah, talk about a crazy week in the NFL. I got numerous DMs just saying like how down their money line parlays were. And I was like, hey, me too. You saw mine. I forget exactly the 4 teams. I went 0 for 3 for the first 3 legs. Thankfully, the Chargers cashed the last leg, but yeah, it was 1 for 4 in a money line parlay of basically all favorites. So not too well. Logan, how are you doing?
Well, I'm great. And I mean, in that same vein, that's why any given Sunday is the motto for the NFL. But we are closing in on 13,000 subscribers. So mash that subscribe button. I always tell you guys on my videos. And what are we, like, Austin, like 600-ish away? Maybe 500-ish?
Yeah. Closing in day by day. Yeah, everyone keeps clicking that subscribe button. Shout out to all our new COS All-Stars. We've been gaining a couple per day. We appreciate you guys. But yeah, Logan, we're going to let you get some stuff off your chest. You said you had a couple minutes that you needed to talk about something, and I'm going to let you talk about your biggest Week 9 takeaway. The floor is all yours, man. This is the place for therapy, and we're here for you because we've been there.
I know. And my Jets friends, gather around. I think we all just need a group hug on this one because
we're here.
Sam Darnold is trash. And I really, I've given him enough excuses, right? I'm talking about the offensive line. Obviously, Carolina's offensive line is one of the worst in the league. But I cannot excuse those 2 red zone turnovers. Like that, every Jets fan is pointing at me like, yep, see, we knew that. And he's got the yips when it comes to turning the ball over. I don't know what is going on with Sam Darnold. But as a Carolina Panther fan, that's just bad weekend all around. And you know what? Thank goodness Carolina didn't give up a whole lot for Sam Darnold. But unfortunately, I hate that I told you so, Jets fans out there who told me so. I got a couple of them with me here. But yeah, he needs a benching and hopefully I think that's what we're getting this week. But man, what a terrible performance from Darnold. We saw some bad quarterback play around the league from, stars that we don't normally see, like Stafford, Josh Allen, but Sam Darnold, this is just too much bad plays. Really did sink Carolina's chances of even being in the game. So just terrible.
Yeah, speaking to that, a lot of good QBs, had a bad weeks. Patrick Mahomes, I don't remember how many yards he threw for, but it wasn't a lot. And yeah, I don't want to rag you on Sam Darnold. We've done that enough to you this season. We understand your pain. If there's any group of people, we understand because we've been in the same shoes. He looked decent the first 3 weeks of the season, and that's what the Jets had seen. They had seen good Darnold, and then he gives you bad Darnold time and time again. It's frustrating. Sam, I know you can speak more on this as a fellow Jets fan.
Yeah, I guess Bill Belichick just really knows how to scheme against him. And at this point, I don't think there was any confidence in the Patriots' defensive scheme about what they needed to do to beat Darnold. And they absolutely did. Didn't look good for him. And yeah, if you're a Panthers fan, now I'm looking towards the draft because whereas I might have thought Darnold was the answer at the beginning of the season, I don't think he is anymore. So a lot of big unknowns if you're a Panthers fan.
Logan, do you think PJ Walker would do any better? I'm just curious because you watch the Panthers much more than I do.
Yeah, I'm thinking he can't do worse. And really the problem is with Sam Darnold is like I said, those red zone turnovers. He's really just trying to make the most happen. He's just trying to force throws that aren't there. And they're conveniently when we're in the red zone. Now PJ Walker's more of that game manager type quarterback. He's a little bit of dual threat for anybody that's watched him in his previous stints. But I mean, yeah, give me PJ Walker. A lot of dump downs to Christian McCaffrey, and that will make me a little bit happier.
I guess that's fair, but we'll move on from the Panthers. We don't need to talk about them any longer. I'm going to give you guys my biggest takeaway, and it's more of a question to you guys because I don't know what to do about the Tennessee Titans. On one hand, I think this team actually has potential to be a Super Bowl. In the Super Bowl contender. I think they're in that class. They've beaten the Rams, Bills, Chiefs, even they beat the Seahawks with Russell Wilson earlier on in the season. But then I look at Ryan Tannehill and no Derrick Henry, and I just don't see it. But then they win time and time again, like they did to the Rams on Sunday Night Football. What do you guys takeaways? Because truthfully, I'm concerned.
Well, the reason why I like it is because they're in the AFC, right? And they're in the AFC South. And right now it's just wide open for them, right? We saw the Bills didn't look that great. The lock that we thought they were for, AFC crown probably isn't there. So it's wide open. And the Titans are a good enough team. And yeah, they have enough of a record and a rap sheet to show for it. They've gotten it done against good teams. So if they get hot, come postseason time, I could see it working out. Big unknown still with Derrick Henry being out. I don't know really who the heir apparent is there. And I don't think that question was answered last week. No. So a question mark there, but yeah, moving forward, a lot of things to like for the Titans.
Yeah. I mean, Adrian Peterson got into the end zone, but didn't do all too much with his carries. Deontay Foreman showed a little bit of something, but still he's bounced around the league to so many different teams. Logan, what are your thoughts on him? And then I'll give my final thoughts, then we'll move back.
It's really cool to see after all these years, Adrian Peterson fall in the end zone. No, I mean, come on, like the old man Peterson. But I mean, yeah, the running game is definitely what the Titans are built on. And if you're asking Ryan Tannehill to go win you a bunch of games, I'm not completely sold on that. I think the wins against those teams that you said, those are some good quality wins. And that speaks to how gritty Mike Vrabel is. Such a good coach. I mean, those players absolutely love to play for him. I'm just not sold. I'm not sold on the Titans defense either. I think, if Ryan Tannehill has to play hero ball and play catch up, that's not where this team, especially without Derrick Henry, is built. They cannot come from behind.
Yeah, and that speaks really to a testament of how good of a coach Mike Vrabel is. Like you said, he's like Bill Belichick 2.0. It seems like his defensive schemes are always so good. And even though his defense hasn't played, up to par the whole season, then they just come out and have a great showing against Stafford. So I'm curious to see where the Titans fall the rest of the year. I would assume they'll win the AFC South, given that they got at least, 3 games on every single one. And the Colts have a couple tough games coming up, but it's an interesting team to watch. I'm curious to see how they do the rest of the season. They're going to need Ryan Tannehill to play better, in my opinion, or else I just don't see them winning a Super Bowl, but they could go far. But Sam, I want to go back to you. What's your biggest takeaway from week 9?
Well, I think a lot of people, when they think of the NFL state of affairs with teams, they have this big distribution of really good teams, really bad teams, and it's really spread out of, where our team's at. And I think last week especially, there's an argument to be made that a lot of teams are just 500 teams, right? And a couple games away from being, 11-6, or also being, a couple games away from being 6-11. And it's just really how a couple games go either their way or not their way. You look at the slate of games from this past week, right? Cowboys lost an easy one, right? How'd that happen? They looked awful. Everyone thought the Bills were going to come out and smoke the Jags. That didn't happen. Falcons upsetting the Saints. Where we came into the week saying, wow, Bills beating Jags, that's a virtual lock. We all thought that. And the fact that it's not means, wow, we think teams are really far apart, and it really might be a lot closer than we think. And it's really just a matter of a couple good games or a couple bad games can really shift into the state of the postseason state of affairs. And I think this past week was a token week to prove that.
That's something I always say in my videos is that, any team can win any given Sunday. I already know Logan has already said that once in the video already. And it's true. It's like you could have put as much money as you wanted on the Bills, and sure, they probably will win 9 times out of 10 games, you'd think, but it's still the NFL and anything can happen. That's why I normally am not placing a lot of parlays, because it's like that. It's like, you just really don't know. And that goes for really not only for NFL, but also NBA, basketball. I mean, it's all a game of inches for every single sport. Like Tyler Higbee, he missed a touchdown by literally his pinky toe. It's things like that are big changes. Then you have the Bears on Monday Night Football with that questionable taunting call. And it was that we won't get into that. It's just so many different things that can happen in the NFL every single day. And so this week, especially more than the rest, it reminded exactly your point, Sam, that anything can happen. And all these teams are more or less pretty equal. Some teams have better players than others, but still, it's still a game of luck at some instances. Logan, what are your thoughts?
Well, you pretty much nailed it, and that's why the NFL is hard to bet. Betting perspective on this one, but I kind of compare it. As Sam was saying, the talent gap in the pros is not as big as it is in college football, right? Take it for somebody that tries to research college football and play it. You get teams like Alabama that just steamroll inferior opponents, but that doesn't really happen in the NFL because these are all professional athletes. They're all making millions of dollars. They have families to feed, and these are their careers. So it really is a different product. I love parity, though. I love seeing the Jaguars, as crazy as it is, beating the Bills, because all those Bills fans who travel to Jacksonville expecting an easy win. No, they didn't get it. But it really, that's what makes the NFL such a great product to watch. And, it's what separates pros from college, for sure.
Yeah, amen to that. Sam, you have any closing thoughts before we move on?
No, absolutely. And it kind of makes you want to bet with that in mind, knowing that, hey, I can't pick virtual locks each week because they just don't exist, right? You gotta get ahead of it and think, wow, what's actually going to happen? Look at, matchups a little bit deeper than really just seeing face value. Oh, Bills are a lock. They're whatever. You can't look at record. That's constantly changing. And yeah, it should be a driving factor in all NFL bets for sure.
Now, I just want to echo, this is not an incentive to just go next week to bet every single underdog and just hammer all of them. Like the Lions, maybe the Lions get a win this weekend. That'd be pretty cool. But we're going to move on to a couple social questions. I asked you guys on Twitter, and if you're not following us, follow us on Twitter at Call on Our Shot. But I'm just going to ask you guys a couple questions that they gave us, and I thought they were pretty interesting. So we're going to ask them here. I always go and ask you guys Tuesday afternoons what questions you guys want. But we're going to talk about the first one from Timothy. He gave us two questions. He's a follower. He's always commenting on my things. I appreciate him. He asked what NFL teams are going to be a surprise to not only get into the playoffs, but to make a run. And I'm going to start with you, Logan. What's your team that you think might get into the playoffs, and they might already be in it, but you think that are a sneaky run?
Right. So we're going in the AFC West, and I think there's several teams that could be contenders in there. Right. You look at Chiefs, you look at Chargers. But I really, there's something about this Las Vegas Raiders team. The way they're built on defense is very surprising, right? They don't necessarily have all those flashy players. They're really good up front defensively. They can get after the quarterback like that. That checks a box. Running game checks a box with Josh Jacobs, if healthy, right? That's a big if, unfortunately, for him. Yeah. And you got that 1-2 punch with Kenyon Drake. And Derek Carr, as much as we always like to say, Derek Carr is an elite, he's good enough to get them into the playoffs and maybe make a sneaky run. Look, I just, everyone likes to sleep on the Raiders. Everyone likes to kind of look at them as a team of misfortunes with, head coach to Ruggs, unfortunate. But the distractions aside, I think the Las Vegas Raiders are one of those teams that are going to play their hearts out.
Yeah, they didn't have a good showing on Sunday. Didn't help that Dan Carlson missed a cheap shot right at like the 8-minute mark. So, and I have to speak to Derek Carr. I was thinking about this all week, and especially from the Ruggs interview and what he said. And I find myself, it's very hard for me to root against Derek Carr. He's one of, I think just over the past couple of weeks, just his responses and his love for people and just how he conducts himself as a leader for this team. I love the Raiders, and you'll never see me bet against them. I just think they're a really cool team to watch, and I love rooting for Derek Carr, one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL, which you wouldn't really think it's Derek Carr. It's not necessarily someone that probably has a top 10 sold jersey in the NFL, but I just think he's a really cool person. And so I find myself rooting for him. Sam, what are your thoughts?
No, yeah, I agree. Like that team's faced a lot of adversity this year, right? More than most teams face in decades, right? And they've been able to, deal with it pretty well so far. I mean, I would have thought it would have barely been able to field a team last week based off of everything that's happened with Ruggs and lack of a head coach and all that stuff. And yeah, no, they've been able to, sometimes needing that obstacle to overcome is a real bonding experience. And so if they can use this as an opportunity to take it further into the season, yeah, I like them. There's definitely some unknowns into what those wild card spots in the AFC are going to look like. And why not the Raiders?
I think there's a bunch of wild cards, not only in the AFC, but also the NFC. But my biggest team, and this is that I think can make a run in the playoffs, it's going to be the Cleveland Browns. Now, before you come on here and say, Austin, you've trashed the Browns, you've loved them, then you've trashed them, you've loved them. I've been back and forth, but I'm back in on the Browns. And here's why. Now, when I think about teams that can make good runs in the playoffs, we've seen teams like the Titans, we've seen other teams make runs in the playoffs. And what does it normally come down to? It normally comes down to how you control the trenches. And this team has the best offensive and defensive line in the NFL. They got Myles Garrett, leads the league in sacks, and their offensive line is overpowered. So they might be my upset pick later this week. I don't know what the status is of Nick Chubb, but I really like this Browns team. I love they got rid of but Odell Beckham Jr. Not that he was, the thing holding them back, but it just felt like it was a weight lifted off their chest. Like whether it was a locker room presence or just something, because they looked awesome against the Bengals. So I think the Browns not only can make some noise, they almost got into the AFC Championship last year, losing by 5 to the Chiefs. I think they got a chance this year just because of the story. So I'm backing on the Browns this week. Catch me next week. I'll probably be different.
Yeah, well, first of all, yeah, that I appreciate your apology for waffling so much on the Browns. He's in this week, guys. Next week he'll be out when if Baker goes up and puts up a mediocre performance. He's out. You're so ready to jump ship on the Browns. I mean, your takes are pretty good as far as Cleveland, but that's a really tough division. I think they're for sure, the third best team in that division. If not, I could argue Bengals are trending downwards, but they still have the talent to compete with the Browns. They're in a tough division. They're in a tough spot, but all the power to them.
Yeah, they are, but I don't think you could really necessarily say the Ravens are leaps and bounds above the other teams. They haven't necessarily impressed. They lost to the Bengals, then they went on a bye. And you could argue my upset pick last week, the Vikings, probably should have beaten the Ravens, but Lamar Jackson led that comeback, and props to him. He's been doing that all year, but it's hard to consistently come back, especially in the playoffs. That's going to be even tougher. So I think the Browns got a chance. I don't expect them to win the division, but I think as a wild card team, we've seen teams do damage, and it starts with the ground game. And they got Nick Chubb. They'll get Kareem Hunt back at one point. They got Dearness Johnson running it too. I don't know. I'm excited for this team. Sam, who's your biggest team that you think has a chance to make a run?
Well, I'm looking at the NFC side of things now, and as of current standings, the Cowboys seem to be a lock for the East, the Packers in the North, and the Bucks in the South. You look at the West, I got to think the Cardinals and the Rams are going to make it in too. So that's 5 of your 7. That leaves 2 wildcard spots. And that really comes down to, okay, maybe the Saints sitting at 5-3. Other than that, hard pressed to find a team above 500. And so my eyes are immediately drawn to the Seattle Seahawks, sitting at 3-5. But they're about to get their star quarterback, Russell Wilson, back, I think. Started practicing today. Hopefully he plays next week. Chris Carson, hopefully coming off of IR. He's probably going to be back on the field. They're missing some big offensive weapons, which definitely let them down in some weeks past. So that'll definitely be a benefit to them. And you look at their schedule, yes, they still have the Cardinals twice, but late in the season, they have Washington, Houston, Chicago, Detroit. They have some cupcake wins too. So if they can beat some of those tough, divisional teams they still have on the board and win all those easy games, I could definitely see them being a 11-6 team maybe come the end of the season.
Yeah, love or hate Russell Wilson, you can't deny his talent. He's one of the best QBs in the NFL, and he manages to get it done. He could be trotting out there with nobody. He's that wide receiver, and he manages to get it done, whether it's leading a fourth quarter comeback or anything along those lines. So I wouldn't count him out. Like you said, that kind of those 6 and 7 slots in the NFC are completely up for grabs. The Falcons are in the playoffs, for crying out loud, at the moment, and that's not a team that necessarily you would think 9 weeks into the season the Falcons are in the playoffs. This was a team that no one had a lot of hope for. So credit to Arthur Smith for turning around the program, making the Falcons a competitive team. But yeah, I'm all in on the Seahawks. I have their over for wins, so maybe they can rattle off a couple for me. I wouldn't complain. Logan, what are your thoughts on the Seahawks?
Yeah, Russ always has that magic in him, right? He's good for a couple wins. That it's just those signature Russell Wilson moments. Everybody knows that. Sam's talking about the offensive side of the ball. I cannot ignore the defensive side of the ball for the Seahawks. So it's not very good. That's good. That's going to be the reason they don't get in the playoffs, though. I have to push back on that one. I mean, I understand what you're saying with getting Carson back, getting Wilson back, but again, they can only do so much. That defense, long gone are the days of the Legion of Boom. This is the Legion of crap. I don't know what else to say. It just they really do give up yards and points at a premium.
Yeah, this week they got a matchup against the Packers, so we don't know if Aaron Rodgers will be back. I don't think we find that out until Saturday. You'd assume he would be back, and I think the sports books expect him to be back because they're 3.5-point favorites at Lambeau Field. But it'll be interesting to watch because you're right, Logan. That defense is not good, and normally Russell Wilson fades toward the second half of the year, and they kind of limp into the playoffs and then get bounced. But we'll see how that goes. But we're going to talk about the Super Bowl because we just talked about the playoffs teams that can make a run. We're talking about the Super Bowl, and we're looking for a value bet. This is a question from Timothy. He asked for a Super Bowl winner, like a value bet, and an MVP pick. So I'm gonna let you start, Sam. Who's your Super Bowl value pick? I want you to give me your MVP pick, or at least a value on that specific award.
So I've been high on him all season, and I'm going to continue to be high on him. I think last week really shouldn't impact your decision moving forward. I like the Packers. Super Bowl winning right now, odds put him at plus 1,100, which is sitting like I think it was 5 or 6 teams from the top. So it's not like they're the definitive lock, but you're getting some good value for a team that is going to have Rodgers back. And, critics have been hard on him. I think he'll recover well from this. I'm too much of a fanboy to kind of view this whole situation truly objectively, and I should definitely be harder on him. But he's kind of embraced that villain role. He had it in the offseason. He kind of has it now. It's kind of a big FU season for Aaron Rodgers. And I could see him, just riding that energy, even if it is negative energy, into a successful postseason.
Yeah.
LaFleur, looks like he's got things clicking. That offense has had more weapons now than it's ever had in the past few years. So I like the Packers. But I tell you what, the reason why I don't like Aaron Rodgers for MVP and why I'm going to pick Matt Stafford instead is just how explosive of a season Matt Stafford has had right now. And just the pure touchdown volume that he has. Where does he sit right now on touchdown rankings? He's got to be top 3.
I think he's first or second. Him and Brady are right up at the top.
Yeah. And again, Stafford, not that anyone gets it because they deserve it, but wow, the 180 that he's done so far with the Rams this season versus what he's done with Lions in years past, he's like a fan favorite to win MVP. I want him to win MVP. So I like Packers with the Super Bowl, Stafford with MVP.
I'm curious how Packers fans feel at the moment, because on one hand, you got Aaron Rodgers coming back. This is kind of like his last dance. Same sort of thing with Devontae Adams, which is a weird contract, like kind of scenario. But then your heir apparent, Jordan Love, comes out, and that man didn't know how to throw a football basically the majority of the game. They ended up covering in an absolute, I don't know how they covered, that they did not look good the whole day, but neither did the Chiefs. But it's like, I don't know how do Packers fans feel about Jordan Love, because he did not look all too good. But I'm going to move on to my pick, and I think you can get some value on the team with the best record in the NFL. That would be the Arizona Cardinals. Currently sitting at 8-1. They're plus 1,000 to win the Super Bowl. And when you look at this team, their defense is still constantly improving. Now, granted, they lost J.J. Watt a couple weeks ago, but still got Chandler Jones, and still got a bunch of talented playmakers on the defensive side. And then on the offensive side, they just won without Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, arguably their 2 most important players. They got James Conner turning into Derrick Henry. This man is an absolute beast out of nowhere. He's leading the league in touchdowns, tied actually with Derrick Henry with 10. It's unreal what they've done to James Conner's career. I hope for his sake he can stay healthy the rest of the year. So I think the Cardinals have as good a chance as anyone. They could potentially have home field advantage in the playoffs as well. Now, granted, their schedule the rest of the season will be pretty tough with the Seahawks and, of course, the Rams. But I like the Cardinals at plus 1,000. Then my MVP pick is not a lot of value on it, but it's Tom Brady. It's plus 350. I think this race will come down to either Brady or Josh Allen. Now, I know Josh Allen stunk it up last weekend, but I find that more of an anomaly more than anything. You got Brady, who's either leading, I don't know exactly. He's leading the league in touchdowns or one below Stafford. But this is a guy in Brady. This is a total like narrative award. This guy is 44, 45 years old. He will probably lead the league in passing touchdowns. And when it all said and done, he's going to end up versus Josh Allen in a couple weeks, in like 4 or 5 weeks. And I think that will decide the MVP trophy. And they're at home that game. And I just think, Tom Brady pulls that one out against the Bills, the defense has looked good all year. I think he'll end up winning the MVP trophy. But I do like the Stafford pick at plus 800. You can't go wrong there. Logan, what are your thoughts?
I think it's funny how we picked MVPs from each of our Super Bowl or from other Super Bowl teams, right? So I think the best value if I'm looking at Super Bowl odds is Rams plus 800. How about a team that's all in, right? Sam like Stafford for MVP. I like what they do on the defensive side of the ball, obviously, right? That you cut Kupp and Robert Woods and a great explosive offense. I think it's hard. It's really hard to bet against the Rams in the NFC. I think they're going to, at least make the NFC Championship. And now as far as MVP, I love Kyler Murray's odds. Assuming he can stay healthy, assuming he can get back to healthy, plus 750. Now look, I'm not trying to jinx Kyler Murray, but I put money on him to win MVP last year, and he got hurt and was never the same. So Kyler, please stay healthy. The league is better with you. But I love the value there, as Austin said. Cardinals, great team. Only one loss. Yeah, why not Kyler?
Yeah, he needs to come back this week, in my opinion, and I think he will. But yeah, Kyler Murray's looked pretty good all season. They really need to get Hopkins a little bit more involved. All he's been is more or less a touchdown threat this year. I have 7 touchdowns, but not a lot of receptions, not a lot of production from your number one receiver. But granted, they got Christian Kirk, they got AJ Green, Rondale Moore, and they got James Conner now all playing out of their mind. So I can't blame them too much. So we're going to move on from that segment. We're going to do a quick segue into before we start about Thursday Night Football and Week 10 and our Week 10 upset picks. Then we'll wrap up the show with some more key matchups. we got a question from a guy on Twitter, Big Taco Fall, which I told him I love the name, and that's why I'm actually using this question. And he asked, what player or team has won each of you the most money? And so I thought it was an interesting question. We're not going to talk about who lost the most money because those are no fun to reminisce on those losses. But Logan, I'm going to let you start with what sport or team has won you the most money, because I know this one and I know it's funny.
Yeah, so with I can't tell the story with a straight face, because if you told me that I was going to win a crap load of money in Russian hockey, I call you a fool. But I did win a lot of money in Russian hockey, and you might ask yourself how. Well, I was doing a little bit of arbitrage betting, and if you don't know what arbitrage betting is, this is a plug for Austin's video. Go watch that betting.
Go to the betting tips and tricks video. Yeah,
exactly. Go watch it with our partner Odds Jam. They really helped me out. But there was a chance, if they weren't true arbitrage bets, there was a chance I could have lost the shirt off my back. I don't know how I would have paid rent, but it was in the name of Russian hockey. Now, if that was a one-time thing. I learned my lesson. I said no more. I can't tell you a single team. I couldn't even pronounce the teams I was betting on. It was delinquency. It was just degenerate betting at its finest. Yeah.
To add on to that story, because it is one of the most stressful things that I've ever been through, is so we bet on Russian and Swedish hockey leagues, which when we looked at the lines, and if you've ever bet hockey or even baseball, you see the run line or the puck line is normally like +1.5. So we were looking at the odds, and they were having the run line at +0.5. So we were betting on those, and then betting the opposite on the other side, so that we were guaranteed to win money. Lo and behold, FanDuel doesn't tell you on the sports book that +0.5 is the 60-minute line. So if those games go to overtime and your team loses, you would lose your bet, and we were going to lose the shirt off our back. Now, out of an absolute whim, literally some of these games ended with like 2 seconds. They were tied and they would score it with like 2 seconds left. It was unreal. None of the games went to overtime. Everyone had a clear winner, and we somehow skate free from it. And we will never bet on Swedish or Russian hockey. You can guarantee this is not a Swedish and Russian hockey channel. Sorry. But yeah, that was the most stressful time that we've probably ever had. Now, the person I've made the most money on, and it kind of goes back to arbitrage betting, PJ Tucker. So back in the playoffs last year, we had an arbitrage opportunity, like I said, go watch that betting tips and tricks video to kind of understand more about what it is. But basically, you're betting the same outcome, but on 2 different books. So you're betting PJ Tucker's over on one book, PJ Tucker's under on another. Well, we bet PJ Tucker's, I think we bet his over. We bet his over on one book. And it was like, or which one was it, Logan? Did we bet his over first or his under? I don't remember exactly which order it went in.
I'm pretty sure we bet his under.
Yeah, we bet his under 4.5 points on one book.
Yeah.
And then we went to go place the other one, the over 4.5, and the lines disappeared. So we were sitting there with, I don't remember, a couple $100 on PJ Tucker under 4.5 points, and the line never came back. So we were sitting there like, well, PJ Tucker kind of stinks, right? Like, he shouldn't score that many points. I mean, this guy that, only shoots 3-pointers sometimes hits the side of the backboard. But lo and behold, we get a live bet middle of the game, and it's PJ Tucker over 3.5 points. So now we're like, oh, well, we can get this over. We have the under. We're going to make money no matter what. And what does PJ Tucker do? He goes out and scores 4 points on the dot. So not only do we cash our over 3.5, we cash our under 4.5. And so we middled it, and it was unreal. The most money I've ever made, definitely, because we had a couple $100 both ways. But yeah, talk about a sweaty game, because he definitely attempted several 3-pointers towards the end of that game, and it was stressful. It was last season in the playoffs, but talk about a thrill. Sam, I don't know what your biggest one was. Do you have any idea?
Well, nothing on the scale that you guys, you degenerates, can.
Sam doesn't bet as much as we do. He's a lot of money line parlays, and he's down bad right now.
One that came back to my memory. Oh yeah, I'm down every parlay this Yikes. But the quickest one that came back to memory was the opener. I bet hard on the Rams coming out pretty explosive. Took a pretty penny out off of Logan's wallet, bet on Cooper Kupp. But if you look at Cooper Kupp, in 6 of the 9 games of the season so far, he's had a touchdown. So if you bet Cooper Kupp's anytime touchdown, right now at the rate he's going, he's just having one of those seasons where he is finding the end zone like crazy. A couple games of 2 touchdowns too. So I think he's sitting at like something crazy, like 10 on the season or something. So Cooper Kupp, anytime touchdown, there's money to be made there, especially from Logan Stacy.
I mean, the books have finally caught up to it. It was like -190 last week, and he didn't get into the end zone, but Yeah, I was actually looking at his stats today. I didn't bring him on to the show. I don't remember him, but he does have over 1,000 receiving yards so far in just 9 games. So I don't remember what Calvin Johnson's record was. I think it was over 2,000 something. But he's not on pace. But I'm just saying there's a chance he could get it with the extra game this season. But Cooper Kupp's had an unreal year. So shout out to you for stealing some of Logan's money. We respect it. But we're gonna move on to Thursday. We're gonna move on to Week 10. Talk about Thursday night football, and boy, is it a doozy. We got the Ravens taking on the Dolphins. I don't know if I will watch any of this game, but I believe the Ravens are 7.5-point favorites. I believe this game is in Miami as well. Sam, in 30 seconds or less, tell me your takeaway on this game and give me a score prediction.
Don't watch this game. If anything happens but a Ravens blowout, that will be the first thing we're talking about come next week. I like the Ravens big. Dolphins haven't shown me anything, barely beaten an awful Texans team. So let's go Ravens big, like 35-10 over the Dolphins.
35-10. I respect
I don't know how I'm supposed to argue with that, right? I mean, do we know any sort of update on Tua? Because
he stinks. No, I do not know. I don't see anything on here.
Does it matter if I tell you whether it's Jacoby Brissett or if it's Tua? Like, is that going to be a difference in how you think?
To me,
Tua changes the line by half.
Yeah. Well, okay. You guys. Well,
no, I'm just kidding. Tua is actually better than Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett is actually very, very, very bad.
There was what was it? 9 turnovers combined in the Texans versus Dolphins game. I mean, I mean that was just a brutal. That's not a good football product. Not a good football product at all. But I mean, it changes my mind a little bit if Tua is in there, because if you look at that spread, come on, guys. We're not the suckers that we used to be anymore, right? We've been betting football long enough. We understand that everyone and their mother's going to be betting Ravens. And then what if the Dolphins just, what if it's a field goal game? Would that shock you? I don't think it would shock me all that much.
We got all those upsets out last week. There's no upsets left to be had. I think the Ravens got this one.
The great equalizer in the NFL is Thursday night football, because you can have a lot of on the short week. You can have injuries. You can have lack of preparation. It is the great equalizer. It's a terrible product. I kind of wish the NFL would do away with Thursday night football, because you always see good players getting hurt on it. But that being said, yeah, the Ravens are going to win. I say they win by 10 though. Make it a little sweatier bet for anybody that's betting Ravens on that one.
Yeah, they might make it as sweaty as the Jets-Colts game. If you had Colts, you know,
because
you were sweating that like crazy at the end with that last interception. These two teams played 2 years ago, September 10th, 2019. Final score 59-10. I believe that was opening week. It does matter if Tua plays. I don't see the Dolphins covering if Jacoby Brissett plays. I just don't. But if Tua's out there, yes, Logan is correct. We are not suckers. Ravens -7.5. That's a sucker bet. What the hell? The Dolphins are only 7.5-point dogs. Yeah, absolutely not. I'll hammer the Ravens. And then you saw the Dolphins a couple weeks ago. They hung with the Bills, which might not look as good now, but they hung with them. They looked decent. The defense looked decent. But last week, come on. But they're playing at home. Short week. The Ravens are traveling. And so, Ravens struggled versus the Vikings. Score prediction, though, I'm going to go with the Ravens 28-24. Give me the Dolphins cover. No, Dolphins are incapable of scoring that many points. 24-20. I'll lower it to that. I think they can do that. They'll miss an extra point. But we're going to move on to our Week 10 upset picks, because last week, despite there being every upset known to man, we only cashed one of them. Logan with the casher. I was absolutely sold. I took the Vikings, and, I thought they had a chance, and they did, but of course they sold them. Sam, you took the Jets.
Sometimes when you bet big value, you get big losses. I will say, though, for the first 5 minutes of that game, I thought the Jets were a new team, a new dynasty. I thought they had the new quarterback. And I think a Mike White version of that game has a vastly different outcome than what we saw.
Okay.
Finals.
Yeah, we can let it slide. But Logan, since you were the only one that cashed last week, we're going to let you hammer this one. Start it off. Roll it.
Right. Okay. First of all, Austin was talking a little bit about Russell Wilson returning, and I really do think Seattle plus 164 on FanDuel at Green Bay. This one just has a Seahawks signature win written all over it. I always think, Russell Wilson's good for a couple signature wins. Maybe Aaron Rodgers with a little bit of distraction. I know, Sam, you love your cheeseheads. You love him as a villain. But you know what? Seattle is just, they're formidable offensively. And I think plus 164, if you're looking at the slate, what we're always looking for value. I definitely think Seattle got some little bit of value there.
For the record, the Seahawks, their rushing defense hasn't looked terrible. Now, granted, they were on a bye last week. It hasn't looked terrible, and that's mainly because they just put Jamal Adams they just said, you know what, screw it. Jamal Adams can't play coverage. We'll just put you at the
Blitz
line
boy.
of scrimmage.
They call him Blitz Boy.
Yeah, Blitz Boy is just at the line of scrimmage running behind. And credit to the Packers. Their offensive line has been looking decent, and the Packers' run game has been decent the past 2 weeks. But Logan, I love the pick. And so, Sam, we'll save you for last. You pick the Jets. You don't deserve to go second. My pick, I'm going to go with the Saints, plus 140. They're at the Tennessee Titans. And now, when you look at this game, you see the spread 3.5 points, and you just look at yourself and you're like, why? The Titans, not only they're at home, they're on an absolute scorching streak. I think won 4 or 5 straight games. Only last loss was to the New York Jets, which honestly is a reputable loss. But the Saints, this game makes no sense. The spread makes no sense. I think the Titans should be 5.5, 6.5 point favorites. They're at home, which normally means you get 3 points added to your spread. So if they were on a neutral field, Vegas is saying this is a pick'em game. I'll ride with the Saints. They might get Taysom Hill starting this week. And that offense is a weird one because you can't really prepare for a Taysom Hill-led offense because it's not really going to be throwing the ball all that much. So I think there's a little bit of value in the Saints. Now, I need to see Alvin Kamara out there. I do believe there are some injury reports that he might not play. So if he doesn't play, I'm all out if Alvin Kamara is out. My second pick was the Browns, but I need Nick Chubb to be out there. So maybe I have 2 upset picks. Who knows? But I like the Browns, and I really just want to see Myles Garrett plant his face and just shove Mac Jones into the ground.
Angry. Look.
Yeah, just after what Mac Jones, did you see what he did to Spider Burns?
Of course I did. It was disgusting.
Yeah. So yeah, he needs some revenge, and Myles Garrett seems like the guy that I can count on this weekend against the Patriots.
Well, if we're going back to your Saints pick, though, I mean, what are we trying not to be? We're not trying to be suckers on this channel. A sucker bet is Titans. That's an absolute sucker bet. And I mean, it's just to me, it makes no sense why the spread is what it is. The Saints really have shown me no offensive production, or maybe Taysom Hill's just going to have 200 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know why the Saints are going to win this game, but they just are. I really do like the pick as the contrarian.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it. Sam, round off this segment before we get into Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football.
Well, you beloved fans, you didn't come to this section for plus 140 or plus 164 odds. This segment for value.
They did come from winners. They did come from winners, but lay it on us.
True, but value winners. And so, looking at the slate of games, there's a lot of underdogs, big underdogs this week. So am I here to say pick the Jets over the Bills? Absolutely not. I'm not a stooge. I did that last week. I'm not going to do it this week. You got to learn from your past mistakes. I'm kind of tailing off a little bit what Logan did last week in picking the Falcons over the Saints. I'm picking the Falcons again this week. Very big underdogs, plus 340 odds against Dallas, a Dallas team that last week looked like a Dallas team in November. And what I mean by that is everyone thought this year, different Dallas team, whole new identity. They're really going to finally be the, elite football team that we've wanted them to be for so long. And they put up a stinker against the Broncos team with a okay defense that just lost their star player of 8 years, and they couldn't put up points again against them. If you look at the Falcons, they were trying like hell to lose that Saints game, basically every option they had. They ended up still being able to pull it out. If you look at the rapport that Matt Ryan's been building with Kyle Pitts the past couple of weeks, they could get hot. Cordell Patterson, man, he's just been killing it. So you get some good explosive Falcons weapons, they might be able to put up enough points to beat the Dallas team. And if you're looking for throw a dart at the wall, I like Falcons at Dallas is one of the big value picks this week.
What a value, Sam. That is what we like to hear. Now, did I also hear you say Cordell Patterson's good or something? Did that slip out of your mouth? I don't recall.
Won't say it in the fantasy segment, but I'll say it in a regular football segment. Yes.
Okay. Cordell Patterson, he helped them clutch out that win with that big reception down the sideline. I'm a big fan of the value pick, Sam. And if you think about it, the last time these two teams played was last year, and the Falcons absolutely choked that game against the Cowboys. They were up by like 20 points, and they choked it all in the fourth quarter, giving up an onside kick, losing by 1. 40-39 or something like that. So yeah, I love it. Maybe they get a little bit of revenge this weekend, but we're gonna move on to some Sunday night football and some Monday night football. And Sunday night football, it's a decent game. We got the Chiefs versus the Raiders. I'll get the spread picks up in a second. But what is your guys' thoughts on this game? Because you got a Raiders team coming off the loss to the Giants on the road. Now they go back at home. They're at home, and then you got the Chiefs traveling. They're 2.5-point favorites. The Chiefs are over under 51.5. Logan, go.
Right. I was talking about the Raiders being one of those sneaky teams. They always play hard. I like what they're doing offensively. I think, like I said, we need a healthy Josh Jacobs. He's always got the red Q next to his name. Anyone who plays football always knows that, right? And I think the Raiders have enough to cover that spread, right? And maybe tease it up to like 3. I think this is about a field goal game. And I definitely think, they have the defensive capabilities to stop Mahomes. The league, look at what the Packers did. Chiefs playing at Arrowhead. That Chiefs offense isn't what it used to be. It's really kind of crazy, right, to see the league figuring them out right like that. But I think the Raiders do cover this one. Playing at home.
Yeah, I mean they're playing at home. Their fans will be out there after all the turmoil that's gone down really over the past couple of weeks. Which I don't know if they've been. I mean, they were on the road the bye week, and then they went to the Giants. So they haven't really played at home since week 7. So I think the fans will be out there. Henry Ruggs and all those incidents are past them. I like the Raiders in this one. I think they got a good chance. If you think about it, last year when the Chiefs were the almighty AFC team, everyone was like, "This team is the best in the NFL." They beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead. The Raiders went in there and they beat them on their own turf. So I like the Raiders in this one. A score prediction, I'm gonna go. I think we get a lower scoring game. The Chiefs offense has not been impressive, so I'd go. It's gonna be a field goal game in my opinion, 24-21. Sam, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I thought the Chiefs really missed an opportunity to regain some identity and what could have been a blowout win against that Packers team that failed to put up any points. And they just didn't do it. They got the W, but was it really a decisive W that made them feel more confident about their ability? I don't think so. But with that said, I still like them in this game. Tough divisional matchup. I think it'll be close, maybe something 21-17, but I am leaning in favor of the Chiefs just because at a certain point they do got to get the magic back.
You think, right?
I'm not ready to count them out yet. I know I've been saying like each week I'm getting close to it. I still think there's going to be that week where they turn it all back on. And why not a tough divisional win away, not playing at home? Yeah, let's see it. Let's see Mahomes get it done.
I mean, I feel like everyone's just been waiting for them to have that signature win, to snap the fingers and just be back to Mahomes throwing 4 touchdowns a week. They just have not looked good. The eye test, they are not passing it. They have looked terrible the past couple of weeks. Really, basically the whole season. They had one good game, but basically against the Eagles, and that's been about it. So I don't know. It's going to be hopefully we get a good game out of it. Sunday Night Football last week was the Rams-Titans, which wasn't really much of a game the whole game. So I think so. We're going 2 Raiders and one on the Chiefs. Let's talk about Monday Night Football, and then we'll wrap this up. It's the Rams versus 49ers. Rams coming off that loss to the Titans. 49ers have looked pretty bad the past couple weeks, getting blown out by Colt McCoy and the Cardinals. Sam, I'll let you start this one off. What are your thoughts on this game?
One bright spot for the 49ers is that George Kittle, by all definition, seems to be back and seems to be kicking. But I don't think it'll be enough to be able to go toe-to-toe with what the Rams can do on offense. And yeah, I don't see the Rams losing 2 in a row. I see them bouncing back with a nice decisive win. Stafford wants that MVP. I think he does. And the 49ers right now, too many unknowns with what's going on. I just don't have enough confidence in them to be able to put up the points to match the Rams. So I like the Rams something like 28-10 over the 49ers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'll give my score prediction in a second. But yeah, I would normally, if you see the 49ers really looking bad, you'd blame Jimmy Garoppolo. But truthfully, he hasn't really been the problem. That defense has been abysmal. And I think the Rams would get back on track this week. I mean, like I said, they did not look good offensive wise last week. Stafford made a lot of miscues that you would see out of a Jared Goff. He looked like Jared Goff, like they switched spots. That was some Jared Goff-like mistakes that he threw, those couple interceptions right on their own goal line, basically gifting the Titans 14 points. I think the Rams bounce back here, get a big win. Their offense is much too talented. And like I said, the 49ers defense has not inspired anyone. So I'll go with the Rams, a little bit of a big win. I think 31-17. I think they win this one. Logan, you.
Did you peep my score prediction? Because it looked pretty dang close to mine. I did write down my score prediction on this one, but for all the points we've already hit on, yeah, it looks like 3 people all on the Rams for this one. I mean, besides the Kittle bright spot, they finally, Brandon Ayuk, welcome to the football team, right? You know, they finally got Brandon Ayuk going.
Yep.
He had a bit of a game, but Sam, you nailed it. That defense, I think, you know, San Francisco likes to hang their hat on that defense, and you get carved up by Colt McCoy. Yeah, I don't know how I'm supposed to trust you one bit playing Matt Stafford in that very high-powered Rams offense. I think Rams win this one 32-16, which I believe might be close to the under. Austin, do you have the over-under pulled up?
It's 49.5.
Okay, so it's flirting right there on that over-under line. But yeah, I do think, you know, Rams get it done 32-16. Book it.
Well, I mean, we're all on the Rams, so what could possibly go wrong, right? They are only 4-point favorites, which is a little bit suspected. A little bit, it's a little bit like, I don't like that much. Maybe the 49ers keep it closer than we think. Wouldn't necessarily surprise Sam. You are right. George Kittle finally got it going. Brandon Ayuk got it going. Like I said, their offense is not the issue. It's the defense that has looked terrible. Maybe they step it up in a divisional game at home, but I can't remember. The 49ers are terrible against the spread at home, and it's just straight up. They really have not won any at home games over the last year or two. But that's going to wrap it up. The last thing I want to talk about is the disrespect, and he's not on the channel right now and not on the podcast. Ryan Mountcastle. Yeah, he was not in the top 3 for AL Rookie of the Year, and I have to come out and say that is complete blasphemy. Ryan Mountcastle deserves to be in that top 3, if not top 1. And so I'm just here to put my pitchfork up and riot because I just don't think it's right what they did. Ryan had a killer season, hitting over 30 home runs. And then he finishes, I don't know, probably finished 4th, but around Wander Franco, Randy Rosarena, which really only played well against the Orioles. That's per Ryan's status himself. So, man, I'm just angry because Ryan deserves it, and we really support him. Just wish he was in the top 3.
I'd like to second everything that was just said there. As somebody that followed the whole season of baseball, the Baltimore Orioles will never get their respect just because they're the Baltimore Orioles and no one watches or pays attention to them. But Ryan Mountcastle had himself an absolute season. Did Luis Garcia finish above him? I believe he did.
Yes. And Luis Garcia will be at least 3 because he ain't finishing 1 or 2. Because
that's really upsetting because Luis Garcia, for you know, my opinion, I think he had a really bad year. He had a good game in the playoffs, but I mean, Ryan Mountcastle had a great year. And a lot to be proud of on a bad Orioles team. He's the lone bright spot for that organization for sure.
Yeah, Ryan texted me a little bit disgruntled today, so he doesn't understand. And neither do we, Ryan. We're all in support of you. You'll be the call on our shot AL Rookie of the Year, and I think that's more important than the regular one. you don't at me. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Like I said, the podcast is live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Always send us your questions every single time. Make sure you go download the podcast too. Give us a good rating. This has been Austin for Logan and Sam. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. We really appreciate it. Let's get to 20,000 subscribers. That's the big goal by the end of the year. We can't do it without your guys' love and support. So we'll catch you guys next week. And like I said, it's Austin, Logan, and Sam. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.